Hey, you liberal fruitcakes! This one's not for you! But you can watch it, it's gonna be informative. Now, I saw a post today from the older millennial. Shout out to him, thanks for the follow. Saying that Gavin Newsom's gonna win the presidency in 2028. Now, I disagree with him. Now, for those who are watching on the left, or who are left-leaning, yes, we can disagree and still be united behind a singular idea. I know, novel concept. However, I only disagree with his statement in part. Because there's a very real possibility that Gavin Newsom, or somebody on the Democratic side, could win the presidency in 2028. This is if the Republican Party and conservative movement are not careful. Because the Republican Party and the Conservative Party have a nasty habit of winning and then doing nothing or being complacent. Now, there are those on the left who are moderate left who have openly come out and said that in the party's current form for the Democratic Party, that there is really no chance in hell that the Democratic Party is going to win, either in the midterms or the presidency. This is because the party is fractured. I've talked about this many times. And the reason I think it's going to be very hard for Gavin Newsom to win the presidency in 2028 is because in his attempt to be moderate, he is alienating the left side of his base, which is growing wider by the day. And the party is becoming more and more fractured. They're doubling down on ideas and messaging that aren't resonating with Americans. In addition, Gavin Newsom's track record of being governor of California is a stain on his political aspirations. Because nobody wants to be like California. That's why they're hemorrhaging people. And just remember, if you moved from California to another state because you didn't like the policies or struggle affording to live in California, stop voting the same way. Now, I do agree with the older millennial in part in our potential loss for the midterms and the presidency. This is if Trump and the Republican Party and the conservative movement are not careful. So this is to Trump, the Republicans in Congress, and the Conservative Party. We won on messaging, and we will continue to win on messaging if we are consistent, and if we back up that messaging with actions and results. For instance, Doge. I love Doge. I think it's fantastic. But for some reason, it's not resonating with American people. That needs to change. You need to show all this money that is waste, fraud, and abuse is being wildly misappropriated, and curate messaging to show why that funding isn't well spent and where it could go. Not only paying down the debt, but how it could actually positively affect the American people. And Trump, I love what you're doing. I think tariffs are a great negotiating tactic, but it's time to switch gears and show that tax cuts are coming. I know that it's going to be really hard to push. However, if tax cuts aren't possible because of the small margins, you need to show that the Democratic Party is the reason we're not getting those tax cuts, and show those tax cuts would benefit Americans, and curate a message around that. Now, I've explained tariffs a lot. I've explained the fact that tariffs are not going to negatively affect Americans as quickly as it will the rest of the world because of our economic and GDP size. However, if you're not careful with your messaging and showing the upside, not just saying that there's going to be an upside, we are going to lose. Because people are nervous that there's not going to be an upside. And that upside has to happen this year. We have to see upsides this year. And if you're remotely successful at this, the Republican Party and the Conservatives will gain ground in the midterms, and we will continue to win for the foreseeable future if you are remotely successful. And you need to be. And that also comes down to us as an entire party or movement. We need to not be complacent. We need to be successful at a state level, a federal level, and an economic level. So I both agree and disagree with the older millennial. I know it's a novel concept for many of you, because we can be rational, thinking human beings that can disagree without attacking each other. Have a good day!